like living stones, be made holy, be made perfect. It is to be built as a spiritual house. It is to be made holy and perfect in a perfect priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices to God in Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Plant your peas by St. Mark's Day is what they used to say in England back about 400 years ago. Now, in today's agrarian world, of course, we don't need to know that St. Mark's Day was April 25th, just a couple weeks ago, because we can look out the window, we can look at the stars and the sun and the moon. We have this thing called the weather man or the weather person, even though that feels like they're wrong most of the time. Thank God for eye on the sky, right? Because we will know something about the weather. But it was a bedrock of agrarian society this day, for it started the very first plantings. It is early in spring. It is the time when the wet weather of winter starts to dry up. Timing is everything. It feels like New England today, doesn't it? I feel bad for the mothers and the families that had outdoor parties ready to go today. It does feel like actually England as well, doesn't it, Biddy? Afraid so, exactly. Yes. April showers bring May flowers. Well, the May flowers they're here, yes. Thank you. We need them. We want those peas. I know those of you who are gardeners have tried. But as you get ready on the ground, there are stones, aren't they, that need to be moved away once again for those peas to live and to grow. Peter, in his first letter to the people of God, said that Jesus Christ is a living stone, and we too, like him, are living stones. Now, I don't know about you, but when I touch a stone, I don't hear a heartbeat. I don't feel a breath coming out of the stone. It is not something that is supposed to live. Peter knew something about stones. He was writing to a community that was fighting against one another. They were fighting because they couldn't figure out who they were, where the edge was, who was in, who was out. You may have even noted there was some not very nice phrasing, some not very nice words going on, right, Biddy? Yep, another nod of head over here. He was plain and simply trying to say, and to invite this community of Christians in to know who they were, who and where their lives happened to be. Jesus, it says, is the cornerstone. Jesus is that one, that rock that sits there in the ground on which we are not to move, for we cannot move, but on which we are to be grounded. And it is about figuring out what that stone means, is what Peter was challenging his people. Well, guess what? Has anything changed? Faith communities still fight from time to time. They still come in conflict, large or small. And they have to figure out normally what this is about what they believe, about who is in, who is out, and what that line looks like. The Episcopal Church, as a denomination, has also struggled with that recently too. What does the Bible say? Now I bet if you asked me and you asked Tom and Bill, we might say something similar, right? Oh boy, Bill. He gave me the one up. But we still come together. We still come to find what God is saying to us in the Scriptures, because the Scriptures were meant to be read together. They were never, this letter especially, was never meant to be read alone in our own homes. Peter meant it to be read to the community, and it was. Because they had to figure out who Jesus was. They had to figure out what it meant. They had to figure out what it meant to follow this one called Messiah, the Christ, the Lord. So there stands that stone in which they gathered around. I decided to look up stone in the dictionary. Now I know that seems like a basic word, an inert thing that is in the ground. But it gave me some other words to think about. Whetstone and grindstone. These two words talk about sharpening something. These two words, one moves and you set your piece on it and it starts to take a different shape. Something that has definition. Something that looks a little bit more like, well, maybe God. Whetstone, you move it back and forth. It might have a little bit of oil on it. A little bit of lubricant, right, Tom? That helps that happen. That sharpening starts to take place. And the lines, sometimes healthy, sometimes, like in Peter's community, not so healthy, start to come into view. But it is the same stone that gives it its shape. The stone, the cornerstone, Jesus. We are starting to celebrate a 10-year anniversary of this building. Some of you were here when this building was built. And I've seen pictures of the foundation when it was just a foundation. Now, many of you have seen pictures like that. But we stand, we sit, and we walk on that foundation every time we come here for worship, for business, for knowing God in Jesus Christ in one way or another. I'd like you to take out the pink sheet you found in your bulletin. Because the next set of cornerstones starts here. Those who were here 10, 15 or more years ago knew that this was a desire to lay a cornerstone. You'll see at the top, it says St. John's mission is, let's read those italics words together, to be a welcoming Christian community of faith, loving and forgiving, questioning and learning, inviting and serving. I was with a group of our parishioners who are helping us look over the next 10 years, and we read this statement. But before we read it, we were asked, do you know it? Well, none of us could give the exact statement from memory. But if I say to you, what's the slogan of Nike, we all could say, just do it, right? Yet, when we went around that circle, we all knew what was being said. We all knew that we could put a word or two into, well, we love to welcome people, and that's important to us. We give out syrup in little bags. We give an amazing peace. We have a beautiful coffee hour. We also knew that we want to learn about God together. We knew that we were about love and forgiveness. That grindstone, that whetstone, that Jesus stone has been working with us. And our hearts are being shaped by it. That is that chief cornerstone. That is what we are being built on. That is what it means to come to this space, to this place that shapes our hearts. And it is when those Christian communities that stop looking at that cornerstone that they become gravestones. Stones of memories of the past. Stones that can no longer live. But it is when that stone is there, and it is based at that corner, and that grinding takes place, and that movement happens, that we become the gemstones of God. And when you hold that gemstone into the sun, what happens? It sparkles like the sun. And we know who God is because we are living stones. It might be too wet to plant peas. It might not be a very nice day outside. But the gemstone that we are will still reflect the sun. It will still be in our hearts this day when we keep close to that cornerstone.